forgiven for thinking that, based on the events of what's going on behind me, that you are somehow placed in Hyde Park in London. Well, the scene wouldn't go amiss for that, except that it's not yet summertime, and this is not Hyde Park. And that amazing building behind there is not one of those monuments that you see in central London. Welcome to Kolkata.
Kolkata, also known as Kolkata, is the capital of the Indian state of West Bengal, and it's located on the east bank of the Hooghly River. With a population of over 4.5 million in the city centre and rising to almost 14 million in the rest of the suburbs, this is a very large and very populous city. There are three key areas of Kolkata that I'd like to explore. Its colonial past, which is ever present with all the great monuments which are littered around the city. Its Mughal past, which is the heart of the history before the British rule and the start of the East India Company. Its cultural past, which is very much defined in some of the things which are still ever present in the modern city of Kolkata. The pivotal point in history for Kolkata starts with this chap, Siraj al-Dowlah. As a direct political disciple of his grandfather, Siraj was well aware of the global British interest in colonization, and hence he resented the presence in Bengal represented by the British East India Company. Over a few short months, the relationship between Siraj and the British East India Company soured. In June 1756, he gathered his forces and took over Fort William. It proved to be his undoing. The British sent fresh troops from Madras to recapture the fort and avenge the attack. The battle was known as the Battle of Plassey, and it was headed by Robert Clive, better known as Clive of India. It is widely regarded as the start of British rule in India and the decline of the control that the East India Company had up to that point. The Battle of Plassey leads us to our first stop, Fort William. There were actually two Fort Williams. The first one was built in 1696 by the East India Company, and the very same fort that Siraj al-Dowlah captured, and where the famous Black Hole of Kolkata incident occurred. This proved to be a vulnerability, and Clive of India instigated the build of the second fort. This is the fort that currently stands in Kolkata, and it covers a vast area of nearly 5 square kilometers, and it's occupied by the Indian Army. The importance of Fort William cannot be understated. It was the start of empire as far as the British were concerned in India. Today Fort William is a working base, therefore visitation is strictly controlled and limited by them. But it is still possible to see this amazing place, and I would thoroughly recommend it. Our next stop is across this vast green open space.
Behind me is the Queen Victoria Memorial. This was built between 1906 and 1921 by the then Viceroy of India, George Curzon, in memory of Queen Victoria. Lord Curzon, who actually founded the start of the build of the Victoria Memorial, said, and I'll quote, "Let us therefore have a building, stately, spacious, monumental and grand, to which every newcomer in Kolkata will turn to,
which all the residents, population European and native, will flock, where all classes will learn the lessons of history and see revived before their eyes the marvels of the past. Well, it is a marvellous place and definitely worth seeing.
Our next stop lies about 2 miles from the Victoria Memorial in the heart of the city's commercial district and reflects a sadder truth of the British presence in Kolkata, as many who ventured here never saw home again.
This is South Park Cemetery. It's right in the heart of Kolkata. It's a green oasis, really calm, beautiful. There are graves here which date back to, I think, around 1659 is the earliest one I've seen. So really worth visiting this place, steeped in a huge amount of history. Here's some facts about South Park Cemetery.
Yes, this is a truly marvellous place. The Park Street Cemetery was one of the earliest non-church cemeteries in the world, and probably the largest Christian cemetery outside of Europe and America in the 19th century. It was opened in 1767. The cemetery was in use until about 1830 and is now a heritage site which is protected by the Archaeological Survey of India. By 1785, the burial grounds had been extended to the northern side of the Park Cemetery, and by 1840, a vast new cemetery was opened to the east of the lower circular road. The tombs are a rich mix of Gothic flavours, and each one is grander than the next. It is a reflection of the lives and the wealth of the ruling classes of the East India Company and later of the colonial powers in general, and today under the magnificent old mango trees they remain, a permanent reminder of the British presence in what was a far-flung corner of the former empire. Whilst for a few that came to India who never saw home again, many did, and there were a lot of young aspiring Englishmen that dreamed of going to various parts of the empire, and courtesy of companies like the East India Company, many did. Our next stop is interesting because it provided a means by which they could do so, and it lies north of the city's vast green open space.
Behind me is the Writers' Building. This building was constructed in the late 1700s by the East India Company, and it provided free accommodation for young men who came from the UK to work for the East India Company as writers or scribes. So considering the large size of the East India Company, this building is quite significant because it supported all of its administrative and accounting functions within the company.
Built on the site of the demolished St Anne's Church, the Writers' Building was constructed in 1776 by Thomas Lyne on the instructions of Richard Barwell, who was a member of the council at the time, and it was the first 3-storey building to be built in Kolkata. Until very recently, it served as a secretariat building for the state of West Bengal until they moved out in 2013 to facilitate renovations. Today, it's still undergoing renovations and has been used as offices, and it is possible with permission of the building manager to take a look inside. The building stands a little worse for wear, but still magnificent. A great view of the building can be had from the park directly opposite, and there is a pleasant walk around the lake that takes in the great vistas of it. Time for a short distraction and to savour some of Kolkata's street food. This city is renowned for its vast variety of food, all of which is prepared fresh, and you will be spoiled for choice. There is fresh pressed sugarcane, orange and other seasonal juices which are a great thirst quencher as you tour around the city in the hot sun. Or how about one of my personal favourites, and another Kolkata speciality, the jal muri, which is mouth-watering puffed rice or muri mixed with shredded potatoes, cucumber, onions and small pieces of green chilli to give it that kick. It's a great snack, and stalls selling jal muri can be seen on virtually every street corner in the city. So, suitably refreshed, let's head towards a couple of sites that provided the religious aspect to the lives of the colonials in Kolkata, and are themselves a great place to explore a little bit more of the history of this great city.
Come to see St John's Church. It's a short walk down from the Writers' Guild that we just saw earlier on. The church itself is nothing spectacular. It is quite a beautiful old style 1700s built church. What's significant about it is the monument that is actually inside its grounds. This is the monument that commemorated the Black Hole of Kolkata. Here's some interesting.
The monument was originally erected in 1901 at the corner of Dalhousie Square, which is said to be the site of the Black Hole. the Black Hall itself being merely the guardroom in the old Fort William where Siraj al-Dowlah imprisoned the British captives after he took over the fort briefly in 1775. Protests by the Congress Party and the Muslim League led to the monument being moved to this graveyard of St. John's in 1940. The other significant church of Kolkata is St. Paul's Cathedral, which is currently the seat of the diocese of this city. The cornerstone was laid in 1839. The building was completed in 1847. It's had a turbulent history as it was twice hit by earthquakes in 1897 and the massive quake of 1934 when Kolkata was devastated and the cathedral's steeple tower collapsed. It was reconstructed to what we see today. The cathedral is in a poor state, and the lack of money in the diocese is reflected in the condition of both the exterior and the interior of the church. There is, however, works of arts in the small gallery, and the memorials on some of the tombs within the church, which proved to be an interesting read and worth a visit. Now that we have seen the colonial side of the city, let's take a tour of the sites that are at the center of this great city's heartbeat. Our first stop is under Kolkata's famous Howrah Bridge. And this place is one that you have to get up very early to see.
It's a very early morning here in Kolkata. It's around 6 o'clock. The day starts very early here. Behind me is the Howrah Bridge. As you can see, a very busy bridge. Traffic is already at full tilt. But what I want you to look at is down below the bridge. That is the MuktiFlora Market. It's an amazing riot of color. Happens every day. It's one of the largest flower markets here in East Asia. We're going to go down and have a look at it close up.
At 125 years old, it is the oldest market of its kind in Southeast Asia. The market is situated along a half-mile stretch of the Mulak Ghat, built by Ram Mohan Gulik in 1855, hence the name. The market starts at 4 a.m. each morning, and flower sellers and general public throng this market until around 9 in the morning. Getting there between 6 and 7 in the morning will allow you to get the full experience of the market as wholesalers haggle prices and large hauls of flowers are continually brought in on trucks. The first thing that hits you is the incredible smell of marigolds, which are by far the majority of the flowers that are sold, mostly for offerings at temples and as garlands for deities and statues. It is a breathtaking show of colors and definitely a must-see location in Kolkata. The best way to get to the market is to walk down the steps from the bridge and walk south through the entire market to the railway crossing at the other end. I finally get to cross the Howrah Bridge, and now I'm heading off to see two of Kolkata's most visited sites, Dhola Temple and the Dhola temples. The history behind Dhola Temple is an interesting one. Dhola Temple is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission and was founded by Swami Vivekananda, who was the chief disciple of another Swami, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who was a key figure in the introduction of Indian philosophies of Vedanta and Yoga to the Western world. Paramahamsa was an Indian mystic and yogi during the 19th century, and he was given to high spiritual elevation from a young age, and was influenced by several religious traditions, including devotion towards many goddesses such as Kali, Tantra, Vaishnava Bhakti, and Advaita Vedanta. He was admired greatly amongst Bengali elites, and this led to the formation of the Ramakrishna mission by his chief disciple, Swami Vivekananda. The temple at Dhola Temple is designed to celebrate the diversity of Indian religions and resembles a temple, a mosque, a church, if seen from different views to convey the universal faith in which the movement believes. One of the temples is dedicated to Swami Vivekananda and stands on the spot where he was cremated in 1902. Although not an old temple by Indian standards, it has a strong significance in the movement which has inspired many Westerners as well as Indian scholars of the years, and I particularly enjoyed walking around the lush grounds which are full of fruit trees, and the temple interior is also very grand. Time for a river journey now. Ferries at the landing at Dhola Temple provide a regular service both upriver and down for only 10 rupees per passenger to the Dhola Temple. The trip takes around 30 minutes. What I would term as the more tourist-orientated ferries are bigger, and they run on a 30-minute departure timetable during the day. Personally, I enjoy the local ferry, and the ride is a great way to get a riverside view of both Belo as you pass and of Dakshinwa as you approach it.
Is Dhola Temple. It's a very busy place here. It's a very big pilgrimage site as well. Unfortunately, according to the rules over here, you can't take any photography or videos inside. So I'm afraid we're going to have to go blind on this one. But here's some details about this quite spectacular temple.
Yes, it is disappointing when travelling to sites such as these in India that you are frequently restricted from carrying out any photography. But all the same, the temple is definitely worth visiting. Dakshinwa was founded around the middle of the 19th century by Rani Rashmoni. Born in 1793, she was a daughter of a simple boatman living in the small village called Kona. She was exceptionally beautiful and at a young age was married to the member of the wealthy Zamindar family. On the death of her husband, she took over the Zamindari clan and their business and proved herself to be a natural leader. Her story is exceptionally interesting, as were the household tales of her clashes with the British colonialists to oppose taxes which threatened the livelihood of poor fishermen in Kolkata. She was closely associated with Sri Paramahamsa, whose disciple, Swami Vivekananda, founded the Ramakrishna Mission at Belo that we just saw, and who became Dakshinwa's principal priest until he died in 1886 after 30 years in the position. Our next stop is a place selling something close to my heart: books.
We're in the heart of what is Kolkata's main book-selling district. The street behind me stretches for around a mile, and it's just full end-to-end of booksellers and stores selling everything from trashy novels to mostly educational material as well. Let's go and have a little look around the streets.
Nicknamed Boypara or Colony of Books, is located in College Street. The nearest metro station to it is Mahatma Gandhi Road Metro. The trams compete with the pedestrian traffic and it is a very noisy street. Some of the bookstores are filled to capacity, serving an endless number of students who make up the bulk of the shoppers down this extraordinary street. With pavements that are spilling over with books, it's difficult to navigate due to the sheer number of people perusing the hundreds of stalls. The street is famous for not only the educational material but also for rare books, which can be had for a bargain if you're willing to do a bit of haggling and know what you're looking for. My price was a signed edition, albeit a little battle-worn, of a novel by a little-known 18th century English novelist for the princely sum of $15. The street is a reflection of the thirst for knowledge amongst the city's students and also of Kolkata's strong heritage with writing and the arts, and whose famous sons include giants of 20th century literature such as Rabindranath Tagore, who was the first Asian to be awarded the prestigious Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. The last stop on our whirlwind tour of Kolkata is Kumartuli.
This is the Potter's Colony here in Kolkata. This place has been around here since 1750s, and the colony now supports around 150 families who still continue the tradition of creating idols which are used in temples and other festivals around India. This is a large colony and people are still living here, and we're going to take a look around and see what we can find out a little bit more about how all these amazing statues are actually constructed.
This enthralling historic quarter of Kolkata is where potters create lavish idols of deities for religious festivals. These winding lanes are home to a large artistic community that has carried on the centuries-old tradition of idol sculpting since the mid-1700s, so there is a deep sense of culture and tradition within this ward of Kolkata. Today, Kumaratuli is home to a community of more than 400 artisans who churn out thousands of these clay effigies of the goddess Durga, her children, and asuras or demons. The figures are made from straw, bamboo, and a type of clay gathered from the banks of the river Hooghly called Entel Mati. You could smell the heavy aroma of the clay intermingled with the pungent waft of cooking, a reminder that Kumaratuli is still home to around 150 families who live in these crowded tenements alongside the workshops. It's an amazing place, and the intermingling streets show many vignettes of daily life, of children playing hide and seek, old men sitting on stools and pondering the daily routines of life around them, and of women who drape bright saris across makeshift washing lines which billow with the wind coming off the river Hooghly. A wander through Kumartoli offers an amazing insight into the city's artistic heritage. The city may be gradually moving on from its sole identification of impoverishment and desperation. If you look at the south of the city, it is emblematic of the more modern, confident West Bengal with its expensive shopping malls and apartments. But for me, the existence of the potters at Kumartoli is testament to the endurance of an amazingly rich cultural heritage, which, despite adverse conditions, has continued to thrive for many generations. So a visit to Kolkata is not complete without seeing this exciting enclave that remains so firmly grounded on its rich cultural and artistic heritage.
Once this thundering traffic, Kumartoli has actually been a real gem of a place to come and visit, and I would suggest do not miss it if you come to Kolkata. Well, sadly, that's the end of our journey over here in Kolkata. It's been a great trip. I've seen so much here, which I really enjoyed. Probably the topmost thing on my list was the Potters Colony. I think that was just outstanding. But I'll leave you to make your own decision when you come to Kolkata. So join me on one of my next travels soon. Thanks for coming with me on this amazing journey into Kolkata. See you again soon.